I didn't know bed bugs existed until I got into property. I thought that was just something like my mom told me, like when she's putting me to bed at night. Like I never knew it
Oh
was a
yeah,
real thing. Like
sleep
what?
time.
Tell us about that. Like I mean, that's something that is created by our residents for the most part. And if it's not, does it ever go away on its own? Like if you have it today, like do these things ever go away?
No,
You
it
have
will
to do
not.
something. You
No.
have to interject with
Yeah,
someone like yourself.
because if you don't, it will give them more time to breed behind the scenes. So here's how bed bugs work. And despite their name, they can live behind picture frames, they can live in curtains, they can live under carpeting. I mean, it's not limited to a bed. If you've got a tenant who doesn't even have a bed, but they sleep on the couch, guess what? You got couch bugs and they're bed bugs. So it's bed bugs detect a couple of things. They detect heat signatures. This is like Predator, the movie. They detect heat signatures and they detect CO2 emissions, kind of like mosquitoes. Oftentimes I compare them to mosquitoes because they eat blood, right? That's the only thing they eat. They don't fly. They're like land mosquitoes, but they're not as much of a public health threat as mosquitoes because they're not vectors of disease that we know of. They just cause a lot of mental strife because they're attacking you where you want to be safe. I mean, you're asleep, you don't have a defense, so it's a very psychological thing. I speak from experience. I had a roommate who traveled all the time, and despite the videos I sat him in front of, and I was like, this is what you need to know when you check into a hotel. I went through a whole protocol with him. He still somehow brought them home. And had I not worked for this company, I would have been in worse shape. But yeah, it took 3 different times for my coworkers to come in and eradicate these things because it was just under the radar for months. I had no idea, no idea. But so they detect heat signatures. That's how they find their meal. And when they're not feeding, they're breeding. And in order to breed, the females have to take a blood meal. So if you have active bed bugs, and you have bites, that's one of the signs that tenants will alert their landlords of if they notice bites. That's one of the telltale signs. But we're not doctors, and everybody reacts differently with their skin allergies or sensitivities. So we cannot technically look at a bite and be like, that's a bed bug. We have to physically see the bugs when we come and do an inspection to verify that there is a presence or not. Because oftentimes, too, it's confused with fleas. It might be confused with other things. So again, the inspection is the most important thing. Um, and be careful because there's a lot of companies out there that will say that they use all this technology and we have bed bug sniffing dogs and all this stuff, and it might be like a wow factor at first, but really at the end of the day, a trained human eye is more accurate than any other device to detect bed bugs at this point. So
I'd
again,
rather work with a company that worked with Abraham Lincoln than that has a bed bug dog.
well, and what's interesting is like bed bugs were surging in the 50s. I mean, I've done some research as I've been blogging about bed bugs over the years for our blog, which by the way has tons of really great content for anybody listening who wants to dive deeper into anything I've mentioned. It's a gold mine. But I did some research, and Dr. Seuss had ads in newspapers in like the 40s and 50s for a product to kill bed bugs. And it was really
Huh.
catchy. They're kind of cute looking, not really, but yeah. And I also found a lot of like black and white photos of mothers with infants in cribs, and they've got this big canister just right over the baby, and they're like, "Here we go, sleep tight." And it's like, but like, it's not like that anymore whatsoever. And I don't know how anybody survived that stuff, but Rose has been there through all these waves of bed bugs over time, which gives us kind of a leg up. But it's really just because of increased travel and heavily populated areas. So the city is more of a target than a suburban area because of all the foot traffic and all the travel and tourists. And that's just what it is. Like they're hitchhikers. They move around on people's belongings, on people's persons. I just went through a whole thing about holiday parties. Like if you host a Christmas dinner, usually you have your guests put their coats on the bed. Well, guess what? People are rethinking that because that's a great way to get bed bugs. So There's a lot of things that people just don't know are best practices, and that's what we're here for.
So myth, you can
Yeah.
find a formula, bed bug myth. You can find a formula online, and typically that's something you could do at a DIY solution. No, that there's nothing out there that exists outside of some sort of professional service.
Oh, it's so frightening how much misinformation is out there. I've seen, claims that if you mix up, boric acid with vinegar and blah blah blah, or like use peppermint oil. No. These bed bugs are a different level of insect. It's a parasitic insect. And what that means is that they're they live off of a human well, not just human, warm-blooded host, because dogs and cats or animals could be affected too. I think the origin of the bed bug is actually caves back, however many hundreds of years ago, and they fed on bats. So it's not just limited to humans, but they're parasitic. They need a blood meal to survive. But what's interesting is that they can go like 18 months without a blood meal. So again, to your point about like, oh, it'll just go away. No, don't think that, because if they retreat into the walls where they're breeding most of the time, like they'll breed in private where you can't find them or can't see them, and then they come out for their blood meals. But
So like humans.
Yeah.
but if you don't see them anymore, don't think they're gone. They're just hiding, and the next time you see them, they could be more abundant. So don't sleep on it. You got to report it, get something done.
All right. So you mentioned when you travel, the hotel protocol. I want to hear this. I want to start implementing this in my travels.
I actually am going to be making a movie this year, a little video about it, because it's just, I think it'd be so helpful. Hotels don't really have bathtubs anymore. I travel we have 13 locations, so I travel all over the Midwest when I work in our different offices and stuff. And my first protocol is when I check in, I don't even bring my bags or anything. I leave them in the car. I get the key. I go check out the room. I use my cell phone flashlight. I'm peeling back the cut, like all the corners of the bed. I'm lifting the mattress, looking under the mattress for things like dark flecks that look like if you were to spill out a pepper shaker, that's what these flecks look like. That's their fecal deposits. And as bed bugs, as they walk and as they feed, they also defecate. So a couple of telltale signs, not only the dark flecks, but if you do have bites, bed bugs tend to bite in a linear pattern, meaning, think about how you lay on a bed. I'm a side sleeper. So like, you might have bites on this side of your body if that's the side you sleep on, but not this side. And if they're in a line, that could indicate that it's a crawling insect that was taking a snack as it was walking. So that's what you're looking for, more or less. Sorry, cat entered.
I see one of those cats attacking those rats out there.
What's the sign? It says for rent on it. Wow. So now that protocol, though, I imagine that's good advice for a landlord that walks into someone that's reporting it. That could be similar.
Right. And also like look behind the headboard, look in the drawers, any proximity. Usually it's within like 15 feet of where their blood meal is that they're going to be hiding. So nightstand drawers, behind picture frames, in the alarm clock, even light switch plates, things like that. Those are all I have a diagram on our website too of like key places to look, like for landlords if they want to check that out too. But even in like the fabric of a lampshade, they like creases, and they're 𝗤𝘵𝗃𝗃, which means, and roaches are too. This word 𝗤𝘵𝗃𝗃 means they like to be touching on all sides. It's just like a social habit of theirs. And so they'll often wedge their bodies in between the seams of the mattress, which you've probably heard before, and the lip of a cushion on a chair, things like that. So those are your key areas that you're going to look for signs, for sure.